In case you haven't heard by now, one of the big stories of the week is that PUBG is officially suing Epic Games, claiming that they infringed copyright with Fortnite. Publisher Bluehole had kind of hinted at taking legal action all the way back in September 2017, but nothing seemed to have come of it. But just a few days ago, on May 25th, 2018, website The Korean Times reported that PUBG Corporation was in fact taking Epic Games to Korean court to settle the matter, with the suit having been filed as far back as January 2018. To reiterate what I said in a previous video, I think this is a pathetic, immature, and unwarranted move on PUBG's part. First of all, you cannot claim ownership over an entire genre, especially when it isn't even one that you established. Not only can the Battle Royale genre be traced as far back as the novel Battle Royale from author Koushun Takami, published on April 1999, there are plenty of other games and mods out there that did Battle Royale before PUBG did. Sure, PUBG popularized Battle Royale into mainstream media, and games like Fortnite wouldn't exist without it. But popularizing a genre doesn't suddenly make it yours, similarly to how the Fine Bros can't legally claim ownership over React videos just because they popularized them. Nor can one claim copyright over gameplay concepts, modes, or parameters like 100 players dropping on a map and duking it out until there's one last man standing. Anyone can take that concept and put their own spin on it, which is exactly what Fortnite did, and the only way you can claim copyright is if uniquely identifiable elements of your work, like assets, game code, and intellectual properties, get directly copied and pasted. The irony to all this is that if there's anyone who has directly copied other people's assets, it's PUBG, which has implemented assets from Epic Games' very own Unreal Marketplace. Granted, PUBG actually bought the license to use this stuff, so they aren't in any legal trouble per se, but still, this is all very rich coming from a company that wants to sue the company they copied assets from for copying. I'll do you one better. Not only has PUBG made use of pre-made assets from Epic Games' Unreal Marketplace, the game literally runs on Epic Games' very own Unreal Engine 4. Yup, they are suing the company that licensed them the engine their game runs on. Now, the funny thing is that this isn't the first instance of Epic Games being sued by a game studio making use of their game engine. There was that one time when Silicon Knights, who made use of Unreal Engine 3, sued Epic Games during the development of their infamous title Too Human. Just as a cautionary tale for PUBG, allow me to relate to you how that played out. On July 19th, 2007, Silicon Knights officially announced that they would be suing Epic Games for allegedly sabotaging Unreal Engine 3 licensees by failing to provide a working game engine before a certain deadline, claiming that this has caused them to suffer considerable losses. The suit alleged that Epic Games' licensing agreement promised a working version of the engine within 6 months of the Xbox 360 dev kits being released, citing that Epic not only missed the deadline, but also that when a properly working version of the engine was finally released, features were missing and documentation was insufficient, causing further setback. Silicon Knights also asserted that Epic withheld vital improvements to Unreal Engine 3 that were specific to their game and used money obtained from licensing fees they charged developers to prioritize funding their own titles rather than the engine itself. So basically, the studio claimed that Epic Games purposely cheaped out on the version of Unreal Engine 3 they distributed to other developers and kept the better version of it for themselves to sabotage everyone else and get ahead of the competition. Unsurprisingly, Epic Games didn't take these accusations lying down. A month later, on August 2007, they countersued the Canadian studio, claiming that when they licensed Unreal Engine 3, Silicon Knights signed on knowing that certain features were still in development, that they would continue to be developed and added while Epic worked on Gears of War, and that the engine may not meet certain requirements or be modified to meet them. But here's the real kicker. One of the things Silicon Knights admitted in their lawsuit was that as a result of Epic's alleged negligence and ill intent, they dropped Unreal Engine and decided to build their own instead. But according to Epic, this proprietary game engine incorporated Epic's licensed technology, as in it straight up copied and pasted code from Unreal Engine 3. So Epic's countersuit also added that Silicon Knights made unauthorized use of Epic's tech and that they infringed intellectual property rights, including copyrighted work, trade secrets, know-how, and confidential information. Alongside the countersuit, Epic made it clear that they did nothing wrong and that this was all Silicon Knights' attempt to take Unreal Engine 3, pay nothing for it, and use it as they please, adding that it is Silicon Knights who's engaging in unlawful deceit to enrich itself at Epic's expense. They also noted how Silicon Knights' criticism makes no sense, as the more commercially successful games using Unreal Engine are, the more money Epic receives from licensing fees from each copy sold. So if anything, Epic Games would have wanted Silicon Knights to succeed in their endeavors. And just like that, the stage was set for a legal battle that would rage on for 5 long years before finally, on May 30th, 2012, Epic Games defeated Silicon Knights and won their copyright infringement countersuit for $4.45 million, a figure that was later doubled to compensate for fees and costs imposed upon Epic. The judge presiding the case noted how evidence against Silicon Knights was overwhelming, revealing that thousands of lines of Unreal Engine 3 code had been copied onto Silicon Knights' proprietary engine, and that Silicon Knights attempted to conceal their wrongdoing by removing Epic's copyright notices in the code and by disguising the stolen code as their own. Now, for the coup de grace, this all eventually culminated in Silicon Knights being ordered a few months later on November 7th, 2012, to destroy all game code and unsold retail copies of games using Unreal Engine 3. These games included the infamous 2 Human, X-Men Destiny, as well as 3 unannounced and unreleased projects titled The Sandman, The Box Ritualist, and Siren in the Maelstrom. To put it lightly, Silicon Knights got served hard with a nice big bowl of justice, and it all eventually culminated in Silicon Knights going bankrupt 2 years later on May 16th, 2014. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what happened the last time a game studio tried to take advantage of the company that licensed them Unreal Engine through wrongful lawsuits. Now, it is important to keep in mind that there are factors that differentiate Silicon Knights' suit from PUBG's. As far as we know, PUBG did buy all the appropriate licenses and hasn't tried to copy Unreal Engine 4 game code into their own proprietary engine and claim it as their own or anything like that. Given what we currently know, I can't really see a scenario in which the courts will order PUBG and Bluehole to destroy their game like Silicon Knights had to. However, I can guarantee you that Epic Games will defend themselves and possibly even issue a countersuit for wrongful allegations. I'm no lawyer though, so I'm not going to try to speculate too much before we see how Epic responds, but anyone with common sense will know that PUBG has no grounds to claim that Fortnite copied them. As a matter of fact, PUBG should not only look back at the Silicon Knights versus Epic Games case as a cautionary tale of what can happen when you bite the hand that feeds you, but also as a crash course on what copyright infringement actually looks like. Silicon Knights copying and pasting game code from Unreal Engine 3 into their own proprietary engine and passing the code off as their own, yeah, that right there is blatant copyright infringement, among other things. Putting your own spin on a game mode and genre through unique assets, game code ideas, and features, on the other hand, that's just literally what game development is. As I said in a previous video, what we're looking at here is PUBG throwing a childish tantrum because they got dethroned as King of Battle Royale, because they came in second place in a race that they were so ahead starting out. Just looking at Steam charts, you can see how Fortnite's rise to prominence has caused PUBG's player base to peak in January before the game hemorrhaged hundreds of thousands of players over the past few months. But it's not as if PUBG is in a bad place or anything. The game still brings in more players than most games could hope for, and it's still making a shit ton of money. Plus, if PUBG is really that concerned about being number one, maybe they should focus their efforts on fixing their game and implementing new compelling features that will give Fortnite a run for its money, rather than resorting to petty and scummy measures like wrongfully suing another company with no legal grounds and with as much precedent as claiming that using frying pans as weapons was somehow their original idea. Just an all-around pitiful display, PUBG. Throwing a childish tantrum is not what's going to bring players back. Anyway, with that, I would like to end this discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping maintain this channel. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.